Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us for a very special edition of today's Insight Tech Talk. My name is Erin Hazen, and today we are going to dive into the intricacies of diversity and inclusion in hybrid work environments. I am thrilled to introduce our panelists for today's conversation. We have MK Schroff, Global Marketing Director for Platforms and Ecosystems with Chrome, and Michelle Rowe, Director of Diversity, Leadership, and Organizational Development with Insight. Thank you both for joining us today to talk about this incredibly important topic.
Thank you so much for having us. Excited to be here.
Same here.
Excellent. So Google is the fifth largest company in the world with 135,000 employees, mind-blowing, and is the second most valuable brand in the world. Businesses look to Google as a thought leader on the topics of remote and hybrid work models and diversity and inclusion. Now, we know most businesses have pivoted to have either whole or part of their workforces work remotely over the last 18 months due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And many are giving their employees the option to work from home full-time or part-time. Today, we are going to talk about how to keep employees motivated, productive, and feel included while working remotely, and discuss best practices around diversity and inclusion in a hybrid work environment. So let's dive in with our first topic around keeping people connected and employee mental health. Michelle, maybe you could start with Insight. And can you share with us the initiatives that Insight has in place to address connectivity and employee mental health?
Absolutely. So connection has always been a focus for us, but never has mental health been so incredibly important and urgent as it is today. We've always had employee assistance programs and HR business partners that can really jump in, our health and wellness team. But we've realized that in this new world that we're living in, there really needs to be more of a frontline support to get people connected to the resources that they need. So we are currently putting in a mental health task force, and we are reaching into all over the business and getting people certified and being kind of that first responder in if I have something going on, if I don't know where to go or who to talk to, who can I get in touch with? And so that will be that frontline person. And they're not going to be doing counseling or anything. They will just be getting them in touch with the people that they need in our health and wellness department so that they can get them to, the counseling services or even medical services that they need. So that's something that we are rolling out right now. And people are very, very excited about it. When we launched it, people were very, very willing to be involved, right? It was shocking how many people came forward and said they wanted to be a part of it. But we also do things in a fun way. We want to make sure that people are connected also, and really we're taking care of them in that relationship sort of way, right? So we do monthly teammate events. We've had Hamilton actors come and sing to us and things like that. But then also last year, what we realized is during the holidays, it was really rough. There were people who were distanced from their families. There were people who had lost family members or were going through really hard times. And so we put together events that happen on different holidays, and they actually happen on the day. And we do that throughout the entire last half of the year. So usually it's people from Insight, external vendors. We had like a cinnamon roll cooking contest and demonstration on Christmas morning for those that celebrate Christmas. And we did something on New Year's Eve. We're doing Thanksgiving for both US and Canada. So it's just a way to get people connected and to know how much we care about them and just want to make sure that they're okay.
I love that. I did take part in a gingerbread building contest.
Yes.
Where I did an absolute terrible job. But it tasted delicious. I was able to eat it afterwards. So that was all good.
And that's what matters.
That's exactly right. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing, Michelle. And MK, let's hear a little bit about Google and Chrome strategies around this topic.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to learn all of the different tools and initiatives that Insight is running. That's so nice to see. I think a few things that happened during the pandemic is, last year we had a good degree of awareness and understanding about mental health that I think was quite ignored. So I'm really glad that it's come to the surface, and I think Google responded pretty rapidly to this. And then there are sort of moments and times of the year where our employees feel its peak, right? Like times when there is planning and performance reviews and end of the year closes, all of those things sort of elevate the need for wellness. So, at Google, we have a few degree of initiatives, both at a very high altitude across Alphabet, which is our parent company. We have a mental health conference happening actually in October, where we bring in speakers, both internal and external, and experts to talk about different topics around mental health. And it's a continuum. There are so many vectors to it. We're doing that ourselves as a team. We're taking that time to make that week as a wellness week, removing all sorts of meetings and non-critical discussions to happen outside of that week. Is just giving people the space to actually sit and absorb that. Google also does some pretty incredible things. Employees do get 25 hours of counseling and therapy if they need it. And for the dependents, these are like obviously benefits Googlers have. But, there are things that I think that have been most effective, I would say, are when managers embody that culture of recognition and vulnerability. Like when a manager comes in and says, it's okay to take a meeting lying flat. It's okay for your cat or your kid to crash a video chat. It's okay to sometimes be off camera or walk and talk. These are all very important models that we need to share with our team so they feel empowered that the role modeling is happening from the executive all the way down to employees. So we find it at all spectrums, but the most effective things are the day-to-day things that you can do as a leader.
I really love that there is a focus on modeling that from a leadership perspective. Michelle, I'm sure you could also echo this. Just even knowing that your leaders are going through the same thing that you are is it just solidifies that connection. Do you agree with that, Michelle?
Absolutely. And MK, I love that you just said what you said about it's okay to take a meeting lying down. It's okay to walk and talk. We have figured out how to normalize. We've done a lot of different leadership trainings at hybrid. How do you lead remotely, give feedback remotely, which we might talk about a little bit later. But one of the big things that we're normalizing is I'm taking a mental health day. And the leader saying that too, it's not just reaching in and saying, okay, teammates, how are you? It's me. If I wake up one day and I'm having a particular difficult day and reaching out to my team and saying, I'm canceling all meetings, I'm taking a mental health day. This is what I need to do for me. Or if my boss, Jen, is leaving the office, she'll say, hey, I'm leaving the office. I'm going to my kid's game, right? So that everybody knows that she's leaving to go and do something personally that really fuels her spirit. Right. And it doesn't have to be something that has to do with work. So I love that you said that. And I love that you have that, because I could not agree with you more. Normalizing that from a leadership perspective is so critical. And like you said, you guys are doing it really from that executive team down. And there is just so much power in that.
Yeah, I think what you just suggested is very symbolic. I think we have to put symbolic, optical representations. Not everybody will know what's happening in your house, behind the scenes, in your personal life, and being symbolic about it, I think goes a very long way for people to feel normalized. So that's great that you're taking that mental day off.
Yeah. No, this is terrific. And actually, it segues into our next topic so perfectly, which is another hugely challenging circumstance that we're all facing is setting those boundaries between family and work life, right? So setting boundaries around taking breaks and exercising and just general self-care. So MK, maybe you can tell us a little bit about how Google promotes that healthy boundary setting.
Yeah, that's such a good question. I would say, we're doing some things as a team. So I don't know if you've ever been on a diet, but I've tried. And that's a whole different session that we should have. But I would say one of the things that I've learned is you can't just have one person in the family follow a nutrition path. You need the whole family to get together so that you can actually make a change. And so we're doing some team type activities here. So October is something we're all rallying together. We need to get steps in. We're encouraging people to take meetings, walking, get some sunshine, get some vitamin D. Google also does structural things. We do get carers leave for those who have, don't have support and are juggling kids and hybrid school and all of that really took a lot of weight on parents. So, and elder care, I think there's like fatigue there. So we're allowing people to take carers leave. In fact, my boss just took one 2 weeks ago. He said he didn't have childcare. He had to take care of kids. One of them had COVID. So there was just like a lot that we are seeing happen. And then, we do have Friday no meetings. We decided that that was a really good time for us to not have any meetings, wake up in the morning and not feel stressed that you're going to go into a full meeting schedule day, especially sometimes some functions tend to have a lot more meetings than others. So that has been really, really helpful actually for the team in like making sure that, okay, there is a close that happens. I think we've all recognized that there is no this time at the day where you close your laptop, get in the car, and then get home, right? That disruption is not happening, and people can continue to go on. So we're mandating that it's okay to like not respond to chats post 5 o'clock. Use schedule send. Don't like flood people's inboxes at night. It causes like anxiety. So these are little things we're doing to reinforce that break in the day where you need to actually get lunch and not keep looking through lunch and things like that.
That is so valuable because I think, you have to be so intentional about setting those times for yourself. Like you said, it used to be the drive to work and the drive home was your opportunity to ramp up and decompress. And that space now has been removed, at least for some people. So that intentionality around boundary setting is so valuable. Michelle, I know we've got a lot insight that we focus on around this topic. Can you share with us about that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a lot of the similar things that you were just talking about, MK. It's that we don't call it Walktober, but now I wish we did call it Walktober because I love that. We have a global steps challenge that's going on in October. So I think that I'm going to send them a note and be like, you should brand this from this point forward because that's love that. So we have that going on. We do the monthly teammates events, which we talked about. We don't have the whole Friday, but we do no meeting Thursday afternoons. So we have that going. And, it's hard to make that decision, I think. So to hear that Google has done that as well, right? It's hard to make the decision to say, okay, we still need to be productive and we still need to get results and we still need to do all of this. But at the same time, we have to give people that space to be able to step away from a meeting because we all know we're back to back all the time. And so I love to hear that because while it's hard to do from a business perspective, it has such a positive, incredible impact on our teammates. And at the same time, that actually has a result, right, on the results of the business as well. So the impact is all over the place, so I love to hear that you are all doing that as well. And I love the Friday idea. One other thing, and it just goes really in line with what you were talking about, is keeping everybody really just educated on what they can do to take care of themselves, right? So we do the monthly health and wellness puts together webinars. And so we bring in experts from the field to talk about nutrition or exercise, or we do a Zumba class, or we do, something crazy where people can get on camera or not. Most choose not to, and do yoga or something like that, right? And then, we do a lot of training, leadership training, like I mentioned earlier, just around how do you connect differently in this world that we are currently in, right? That remote world, that hybrid world. How do you just make sure that you're staying super connected? And so we do a lot of leadership classes, and we've kind of changed those over time as the world has changed. So we're getting ready to launch a huge initiative in 2022 about that hybrid. How do you lead effectively in a hybrid workforce as well? That's so great. A lot of very similar things that you're doing to keep that balance.
I love it. And modeling that behavior, like you mentioned earlier, MK, for your family is so important as well. My son, he recognizes, Mom, it's 5 o'clock. We're done now. And he reminds me. So it's really important, I think, just to support the success of not only your sort of work-life balance, but your family as well.
totally agree with this. Like there were in very early on in the pandemic, my son, there was this one day when my son started yelling at 1 o'clock. He was like, "Hello, where is lunch?" and that day I said, "Okay, 12 to 1, lunchtime, like no meeting. I can't like skip my poor child's lunch." I just totally spaced. It was the first few weeks,
Yeah.
and it was a good, like reckoning that okay, these are like moments for your family also to understand that they need to, they need to have balance, and that's going to be the model for future. So
I love
Totally.
that.
I'm glad you mentioned family here.
They keep us on track, right? Especially when they're hungry.
Yes. Oh my gosh, yes.
I also think, Michelle, maybe we need like an Insight and Google steps, like maybe a steps challenge. Since
Ooh, a competition.
Oh,
We do team challenges. It gets pretty competitive.
I'm totally in for that. I am too. So let's do it.
I love it. I love it. So moving on to our next topic, ladies, I think that one thing that I'm not sure any of us anticipated, even just a couple of years ago, was the increase and evolution of the onboarding process in a hybrid work environment. So, Michelle, maybe can you share with us how Insight is addressing the shift into like almost exclusively virtual onboarding now?
Yeah, so it was a big shift. And I know, MK, when we met before, we talked about inclusivity in an onboarding situation, right? How do you feel included and a part of that culture? How do you kind of get ingrained into how people treat each other and what are our behaviors and how do we represent our values in action every day, right? So it's so different. It's so different. So we immediately went to making sure that everything was virtual, but we kept the structure of onboarding the same, meaning you still get together and your first day, your manager sets up a virtual meeting where everybody grabs coffee and a donut on their own, right? Or that, the new teammate gets something shipped to their house, something sweet and fun, right? To welcome them. And then everybody just gets on and just welcomes them and talks about who they are and, ask them a ton of questions. We do all hands meetings virtually now, of course, as well, where we have every single new teammate come on and they introduce themselves and they tell interesting facts about themselves. And so people get to know them a little bit more. We ensure that every single person who comes into and I can speak for, I'm pretty sure it's consistently happening, but I can really speak for HR. We make sure that anybody who comes in, they meet with everybody. They just get a list of names and they set up meetings and they have individual meetings with them. And so it's been really incredible to make sure that we are bringing people into that culture and making them really feel a part of that culture, even if they're not in that room with us, right? And I think I've always had remote teams. MK, I'm guessing you have too, right? Where there's some people remote and some people here, so it's very hybrid, but there's a lot of people who haven't. So it's definitely a new shift to make sure that they're following a checklist, getting all of those things done so that we make sure that that first day, they feel like, yes, absolutely, this was the right place this was the best choice I could have ever have made. So that's what we're doing there.
I love it. And I love that the initiatives around just connecting them with who they're going to be working with, making sure they get to know each other on a personal level, really eliminates even just that isolation, that feeling of being on an island, right? You're not alone. And I love that. So I know, MK, that I know Google has some great best practices around this topic as well. So we would love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, +1 to everything Michelle said, because those are the things that are really good industry best practices. Like every company should follow them, and we do as well. One of the things that happened at Google was a lot of the onboarding energy came from people visiting Google's offices and meeting, people in the office, and those interactions really help people feel like that warm and fuzzy. The first few weeks are hard. We do have fun things like Go slash glossary, where you can actually like hear all these acronyms people are using, and as a new person, you're thinking, what is this? I don't know what this is. Can I even ask? So we've created things, simple things like that. But I do think this was especially hard for executives who join at this time, because often when executives are hired during a hybrid environment, they're not able to build that connection with the team and really rally the force or steer in a new direction, often that's when they're brought on. So I think it was especially hard that we recognize for executives too. So not only employees, but also executives. We do fun things. We obviously have a very thorough onboarding doc. We assign people with buddies, like, someone who can ask like any dumb questions, no problem, psychological safety kind of thing. So we started doing that. We do a little spin the wheel during a first meeting where there are 10 like, whimsical questions, and we ask them to answer one of them just to get to know them a little bit more.
I love
We
that.
have 10 questions every Friday where we, ask about their past, their origin story, and then you assign a different person in the team that has to do it the week after. So we're trying to encourage behaviors that are, emulating what it would be like in the office when you get to like connect with someone at a personal level without having to, meet during the whole remote world. But I think these are good best practices that will last post pandemic too, because they just make good sense. So there's just like new things now that are going to happen as part of this process. And then I do think we do check-ins. I think there's a good check-in that we do 60 days in, making sure that they're not feeling like that early lull, or they're still energized about this role, and we course correct if we feel like someone's feeling like behind or not quite not quite involved. So I think there's a lot of things we're trying to do. Obviously I wouldn't say we have cracked the code, but we're getting better and we're optimizing as we go.
Well, and I think that is at the heart of it is it, all of us were faced with, we don't know, this is new. And so we're kind of, you've heard the saying, we're building a plane as it's flying.
Yeah.
The good news, it's still up in the air. So we're doing okay and making improvements. One thing you touched on, MK, that really struck me was you said psychological safety. I feel like this is so crucial, especially when you're in a remote, experience. Maybe Michelle, if you don't mind touching on that as well. I think that the ability to ask questions and feel like you're safe, feel like you're not alone. Maybe you just don't know where to go. These are all so important for that employee to feel that they can trust where they are. And what do you
Absolutely.
think? Yeah.
Well, and I love that you said that too, MK. When you said it, if you saw me, I was like nodding. Yes, absolutely. People need that. And I love that you talk about, the acronyms that we use. We have a glossary of those as well, right? Because there's so many.
Yes.
They're everywhere.
Yes.
But we do something similar with a buddy, right? And it's always somebody on that team, just to be sure that they are brought in and they can ask those questions. Typically, what we really recommend that you have one person really training that person, right? So they are kind of that contact and the one that it's the best person to train them for that role, but at the same time, somebody that they can build that connection with to ask those questions to. And even if it's just to ask where the coffee is or where the restroom is, right? Sometimes they don't know that and they're like, oh my gosh, who do I even ask? I don't know who to ask. But it does. I love the term psychological safety. I think that it's so critical for them to have that one person. They might have a couple and they might build those relationships, very easily up front, but at the same time, have that one person as their go-to to just make sure that they're connected and can get what they need.
Yeah, I think this was a study that Google did a few years ago. I want to say 4 or 5 years ago, actually, which was the best performing teams had psychological safety, where they could, be candid, ask tough questions, stay accountable, but also be empathetic. And these are attributes that we all try to live by, and our managers are held accountable to. So we're definitely pushing that. One thing we do, for instance, to reinforce the things that Michelle was talking about is during our all hands, we have a question and answer chat, and we allow anonymous questions to be asked at that time. This lets people ask the question without having that fear of judgment, and allows the manager to respond to a question that maybe many people had, but they just didn't feel comfortable asking. So we really, and sometimes even I ask anonymous questions to encourage that behavior. So I do think that becomes a core tenet of a successful, high-performing team long term.
I
love
love
that.
Yeah.
Sorry, Erin, I just jumped right in with I love that too.
No,
I
we
think it's
both,
so
we said it at
important.
the same time. We love it. I think that kind of trust that builds also just promotes longevity and keeps your employees happy and sticking around, right? I think that's so valuable.
Erin, if I can jump in really quick, MK, you
Please.
said something there with the anonymous questions, and it got me to thinking about something we used to do that has fallen off. And in the all hands, we would say, okay, so what rumors are you hearing? Because then it takes you out of it, right? And you're just saying, well, I heard. I mean, it wasn't me. It was a friend of a friend. You have that safety there. But it's what rumors are you hearing? So that when it's said, and sometimes it's shocking, like what people say, well, I heard this, but it was the most amazing way for our leadership team and our executive team really just to hear what's going on and what people are saying so that they can address it right there and then. And so I love that you said that. And I'm going to make a mental note to bring that back up because I think it's so important to be hearing what are people talking about anonymously or as a rumor.
Yeah. And, I think when people ask tough questions that sometimes can, trespass the boundaries of comfort for a lot of leaders. Responding with kindness, being transparent and empathetic is a good leadership skill and muscle that you quickly have to develop too. So I do think it helps both ways, not only for the employee, but also for the leader to understand what the team is feeling. So I think kindness really shines as part of this process, but it just makes us all stronger together long term.
Agreed.
Terrific. Yeah, terrific call out there, Michelle. I love that. So maybe let's move on to the next topic that is also just immensely important, and a part of the process through onboarding and remote working is recognizing the role that inclusion and diversity play in our hiring practices. And I know, MK, you have said that Google has made some changes to your hiring processes to ensure that inclusion and diversity considerations are now standard. So maybe you could start by sharing how that works for Google.
Yeah, it's a great question. And I will say we're like everything Google, we're never satisfied. We're constantly optimizing and improving. But some things that the team has done, I'm really proud of. So Google made this mandate to make all our roles inclusive hires. And what that means is, the problem statement we're trying to solve is historically when a role would open, you would hire folks internally. And that was the fastest way for a manager to fill the role. And everyone has goals. And we're not looking for the best possible talent often just because we're optimizing for speed sometimes. And this was one of the reasons why we felt like talent was just cycling in the company, but we're not bringing fresh thinking. And so we've mandated that every role be posted externally and we bring all sorts of backgrounds as part of the process. We also dropped some of the crazy, college requirements. We actually don't need that anymore for any role that doesn't have that prerequisite. We don't really need, there's no Ivy League type of requirement. Certainly, we don't ask things like equations in non jobs that require that. We drop all sorts of weird things that maybe have started from 20 years ago. Google actually turned 23, so a lot has changed.
Yeah.
But also we do things that, are structural, like we're hiring in locations that are not just Silicon Valley. We've added a lot more locations and hubs across the country and globally. And we're doing this because often we found that there is really strong talent, but they're tied to a community. And to disrupt them from the community and bring them to Silicon Valley was a non-negotiable. So these are adaptive changes that we're making as well, so that we meet where the talent is and not try to create a whole institution here in the Bay Area.
That's terrific. I love that you are thinking broader, and of course now we can, because of all of this sort of expansion of hybrid workspace. It really just opens up, like you said, bringing the job to the employee versus the other way. Michelle, would love to hear your thoughts around this topic as well.
Yeah, a lot of it is will just mirror what MK was just talking about, right? Making sure that you're having those diverse candidate slates. I think, when you were talking about trying to hire quick, right? We just need fast. We're going to hire fast. And I think that slowing that process down is something that Insight's been really focused on as well, just to make sure we get that right candidate in. So it's not, we're just going to have internal, it's external, it's making sure that we have diverse candidate slates. It's making sure that if we don't have fantastic diversity and experience and background and all of the things, then we make sure that the recruiters are reaching in and they're continuing to look until we have a very well-rounded panel, which is exactly what you're talking about right now. It's slowing it down to make sure that we're hiring right. And I think that that's a big focus. And we're doing training around that. One of our recruiting managers is doing training around it, which is really around hiring diverse talent. And I love, MK, what you just said about the prerequisites and degrees no longer being required. Those are the conversations that we're having, right? Because I think that right now, things are so different when we're interviewing. They don't come into our office in their best dress. They're not doing that. They're in their house. And so you have this view into where they live, and maybe their kids are there or their dogs are barking. And so it's not this crazy formal professional thing that you would be used to. And we really have to shift our brain to say, okay, but that's all right. Because if this is the right person for this role, then we need to kind of put our expectations of this formal presentation of whether it's the resume or whether it's, how they present in the meeting in your office. Everything's different now, right? So we're doing training to say, we have to shift that focus. We have to change our expectations, because what we're looking for is incredible, diverse, experienced, impactful, fantastic people. And so that's what we need to be hiring for. And if you have that, you have this great panel of people that you're choosing from.
Yeah, I think your example was so astute, because you talked about a simple thing like someone's background. Now, not everybody comes with privileged upbringing.
Exactly.
Not everybody, has like a space in their house that accommodates, that looks like a perfect office for interviews. And I think we need to adapt and drop some of these prerequisites that go into interpreting diverse talent or inclusive talent or underrepresented talent, depending on where you are, and ensuring that we're bringing thought here, and focusing on the contribution. So
exactly,
great that you're thinking about that too.
I also love that with reaching out, like we talked about, sort of like from a geographic perspective, you are, with this hybrid workplace, you're kind of eliminating people's issues if they have concerns about transportation. How do they get to downtown? Maybe they don't have a car. Maybe they, So it really allows, like you said, for that talent pool to become so much broader, because all of the things, when someone's looking at a job description and they say, oh, I can't do that because I can't get there, those are gone.
Exactly. Like, I want the best possible talent for any role that I have. And it's a little shocking that we didn't optimize for that in the past. So I'm really glad that we got here. It took a pandemic for us to get here, but now it just seems so obvious to think about that. So I'm glad you did that.
Agreed.
And maybe just tell us, both of you, if you can, how has it been going? So it's been 18 months. How have you found that this onboarding has been going? How have the candidates responded? Maybe MK, I'll let you start.
Yeah, actually, we are bringing in some really remarkable people. We just my peer that just joined the team, Adrienne Lofton. She's a VP of brand for all of our teams. And she came from Nike. She's not a tech company, although in my mind, every company is a tech company, but obviously she will say it's different. And, she was based originally in Portland, and just really interesting perspective to the equation. Just like awesome to have a new partner that isn't in the tech valley bubble, resounding and saying the same things we keep hearing from each other. Just like whole new set of ideas. So just overall, I think the company has done really well in bringing in new diverse talent, raising the bar on how we do hiring, and really bringing in more like Black and Latin marketers, we call them BOM, bringing that talent into the mix. And opening our eyes. Like we're all actually learning along the way and getting to be better people, which is, I think for me, I just want to be a good human, and it's just helping me get there. So
yes.
Yeah.
I love that. And Michelle, maybe do you just want to share, and then we have a great segue when you mentioned some underrepresented groups that we'll flip into. But yeah, Michelle, maybe just tell us how's it been going with the hiring process?
It's been going well. What MK said, it's interesting that we didn't have this intense focus like you were just talking about at Google as well, right? And now it's just, there's no question that this will be the way that we do it forever, right? And it's going really well. I love, what you just said too about different industries. I think there's diverse talent in that way with diverse backgrounds. And I think that when people think about diversity, think about very narrow, but it's so broad. There's so many different groups and just experience and knowledge. And it's incredible to say, okay, we're going to hire for inside sales, but have we thought about retail? Have we thought about servers? Have we thought about a different industry where maybe they wouldn't come in with a degree, but they are the most incredible customer service person you've ever seen, right? So that's been super positive. Just making sure that we have those diverse, we're working with different networking as well, like Disability In and just different groups.
Yeah, accessibility is a big one. We participated in the Paralympics.
Yes.
And we had a whole showcase there. It's part of all our marketing creative now. It just makes sense.
It does.
But for some reason, we didn't do it. So
right.
I'm really glad that we're getting to that place where we recognize them. There's awareness. I love that you're thinking about inclusion versus diversity. Yeah.
Yes. And that, you know what? And I love that too, because the diversity, yes, absolutely. But that inclusion is that everybody's a part of it and everybody has a voice. And it's just been so incredible to watch. And honestly, I'm guessing you feel the same way, but to be a part of it and to watch this happen, like you said, we just want to be a good human. I just want to be a good human. And I think that this is really shifting people to think in a different way. And it's just an incredible opportunity for everybody. So
I love it. And what's that quote? When you know better, you do better, right?
Yes.
We're all learning and growing. Maybe just touching on those sentiments, let's talk a little bit more about underrepresented groups and how are we giving them a platform to share their views and feel that psychological safety around being maybe an underrepresented group of, for example, Asian Pacific Islanders or Hispanic. So maybe MK, if you don't mind talking to us a little bit about this, and I know there's some really important initiatives with Google, that would be terrific.
Yeah, I think there are multiple facets in how we think about this. First, we have created communities for underrepresented groups that they can feel part of and have very candid discussions. This was actually very helpful during the Stop Asian Hate movement or during the social awakening of Black Lives Matter last year. Folks feeling their intersectionality was something that they needed a group to discuss with. So we're giving a lot of different platforms and forums led by Google executives actually to reinforce that, yes, you should be able to talk that. There are mentorship programs for underrepresented groups to make sure that we're thinking through raising them along the journey and being a voice for them. We have listening sessions. There was this time when during the peak of COVID in India, we had a listening session on how we can help folks who are dealing with loss of people during the crisis. It just comes in many different formats. One of the things that our product teams are also thinking about this, it's not just internal employees. We need to do this for the billions of users that use our products. So, we're incorporating cultural initiatives. So, for instance, right now is Hispanic Heritage Month, and so we updated our backgrounds on Chrome browser and Chrome OS to reflect creative that came from that community, or we'll reflect that on the google.com homepage. We're doing cultural celebratory things on every week on Hispanic heritage, and it's really fun because I actually got a whole bunch of spices and ingredients today, and it's today we're going to do a little understanding of the culture. This person is coming and teaching us how to cook something, but it's also a fun way to embody yourself and embed yourself in the culture. And then the last thing we're doing is obviously we're doing guest speakers and thought leaders that come in and talk, but we're doing this series where, like I mentioned, we do 10 questions and we focus on the individual and the heritage and what it means to be Latinx, which is a term that people use very often, but it's so complicated. And just unpacking that with someone that's mixed race is such a good learning experience. So all of these initiatives together, like, are helping us, coming at us in many different ways. One last thing I will say is often, and maybe Michelle, you face some of this too. There's always like the standard set of 4 or 5 people that tend to do the typical citizenship or DEI work, and we're really pushing the boundaries and saying no. You can't just have like the ones that raise their hands. Like for those that also are not raising their hands, you need to step in. It's not one thing to say, well, I'm still learning about this, because for the people who are going through this, that's been their whole life. So I think we have to say no. Like learning's good, but action is what we need. And so we're really making sure that citizenship percolates through everybody and all teams versus just like the people who are being volunteering around this.
Love that.
Love it. And Michelle, I'm sure you have some thoughts to share as well around this. Can you please, speak to that sort of underrepresentation and platform and encouragement of education around this? I think we have a lot to share.
Well, and it's interesting because I could say again, so many of the things that we're doing, MK, you were just talking about, right? The teammate resource groups, we have Afro professionals and allies, we have LGBTQ, which is Insight Stands Out, we have our Hispanic group, Unidos, we have the veteran group and the Asian Pacific Islander group, and it's absolutely incredible to watch. These all really formed in 2020, but to what you just said, MK, we said, I have a leader who runs diversity and inclusion, right? She runs it, Sarah. She has a team, but we basically put it out there and said, if you want a teammate resource group, it is on you. You come up with a charter, you come up with all of the events, we will support, we will give budget, and I will own that, but you have to drive it. And I will tell you what, holy moly, right? I mean, the disability, our disability group, they are doing this October month, and the events that they have planned are just absolutely incredible. It's just, they've really owned it, and they've done that charter, and they put together strategy, and they've figured out how to own it. And the listening sessions they ran, and then they do panels, and they bring the executives in to talk, but they ask the questions. And I love that you just said that, because one of the biggest things that we do is it's the people that identify, but also the allies. Right. So in our women's group, there's a bunch of men. In, our Afro professionals and allies, there's all different, races and ethnicities. And so it's incredible to see. But then the education piece of it is, we do unconscious bias training. We do allyship training. We do all these things where you can come on and say what you think and put it out there in a safe place. And even if you don't want to say it out loud, right, there's a chat that's going on. And so you can ask questions. And sometimes it gets really, woo, I can't believe we're talking about this. But oh my gosh, people walk away learning so much. And it's just incredibly powerful to be able to have it out there, right? And to have people so involved in it. So it's been a really just, again, incredible and such an honor to be a part of it.
I love it. And the opportunity for allies through these kinds of initiatives is just huge, to be to be able to learn and have these avenues for support. So yeah, this has been an absolutely incredible conversation. Both of you, MK and Michelle, thank you so much for your insights and your passion around this topic. I know that I'm grateful, and I know that our teammates and our customers will be grateful to have the opportunity to learn from you. It's been an absolute delight. Thank you so much, both of you.
Thank you so much. It was really nice to talk about this, and I'm glad we're doing this. So
me too. Thank you. Yes. And MK, I'm going to we should stay in touch so we can talk about all these things and all of what we're doing and implementing.
I love it. Long-term friendships is what we need at work.
Exactly.
Love it. And let me thank you to our audience for joining us today and for participating in an incredibly important subject and topic. We will definitely include links to some interesting one papers or links that we can help educate you around these topics as well. please visit us at www.insight.com. And again, my name is Erin. It's been an absolute delight. I look forward to having the opportunity to tech talk with you again in the future. Have a great day, everyone. Take care.
Take care.
Thanks, everybody.